Hi, we're live, right? Yes. Awesome. Good morning, P&C. Happy Friday. It's supposed to hit 31 or 32 degrees in Calgary today. I hope it's like that in the rest of the province. Today is the first day of Stampede. So the city is buzzing, and we've got, okay, here's one that's near and dear to my heart. Eddie the Eagle, who is from the '88 Olympics, is in the parade, and he's also in the grandstand show. And they've got I think he comes in on a trapeze kind of thing with ski jumping skis on. So the ski jumping community, which I'm a big part of, is very excited to have Eddie the Eagle as part of all of this year. And I've got my my Stampede shirt on, and this is always the test for me. Every Stampede, when I go to put on my Stampede clothes, I'm always like, oh, could they still fit? So anyway, we've got quite a bit to share with the team today on the open mic. So just for an agenda, we're going to talk about some of the people moves that we've had in the last couple of weeks. And then what I'd like to do is just do a review of some of the messages that Curtis shared, one with the executive team and two on a broader call with all team members this week. So want to do a check-in just to see if there's any questions from anyone on any of Curtis's announcements, anything that I might be able to clarify. What's feeling really good about those messages, anything that's kind of nagging at you. So we would love to have a really active chat today with people putting in comments, feedback, questions, and I'll be sure to kind of pause along the way to make sure we leave lots of time for that. We have Tracy Chandler, who is our host today. So Tracy, I can see you there, so I'll go back and forth with you a fair bit today. Okay, so just in terms of people moves, I'll do the first one, and then I'm going to turn it over to Maureen. So I'd like to do a very warm welcome. I'm just going to advance the slide here. Give me 1 second. Marie's going to help me with the slide, so I'll keep going. So a very warm welcome to Judy Butterworth. So I did announce a couple of weeks ago that Judy was joining ATV, and that's here. So there's her nice smiling face there on the left. And Judy is leading the Total Rewards team. So she has that value stream. She's had a packed couple of weeks. We were able to get her into Culture Days, and I saw a cute selfie of her and Dave and Curtis, and they were joking about a comp with her. She's already been in touch with Alticorp. I know she spent some time with Lisa Bannock and with Debbie Cooch, who are both product owners, and she's jumping right in. And you would have heard from, or I would have certainly heard from Curtis, that some of this compensation work is really a big focus for us and him in the next 12 to 18 months. And then we had the announcement that the corporate social responsibility team was joining P&C. We are very excited to have, we've got the pictures here. We've got Sandra, I really hope I'm going to say this. I say Usilak. I don't know if Sandra, if the volume is off for you, but you can correct me. We've got Terry Stixma, Jamie Bay, and Kathy Archuk, and I think all were invited to the call today and are likely on. So a big warm welcome to the corporate social responsibility team. So we felt that there were a lot of synergies between P&C and this team. There are things that we do with diversity and inclusion, the team member networks, post-secondary, where we have worked in partnership a lot over the years. And so bringing these two teams together will really help us find kind of where there are additional synergies, where we can really add some additional focuses. And you would have heard Curtis's piece around the greater good of Albertans. I think this really will elevate the work that is happening within these teams. So very excited to bring the two teams together. Okay, Maureen, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Liz. Yeah, lots of changes in the PX Hub and appointments to announce. So things really are coming together in that group, and I think we are really close to having the team fully finalized. So we had a number of positions that were posted, a number of leadership positions that were posted that have now been filled. So we've got Jennifer Leonard, who will be leading the P&C operations group. We have appointed the two directors for leader enablement in the PX Hub, and those are Candace and Nancy. We had, you may recall, three business consultant roles posted. Alex Hill has accepted one of those positions. So Alex will be the business consultant on the sort of merger acquisition startup side. So initially that is Brightside and Alticore. Zubaida has accepted the role leading policy, procedure, and program maintenance on Adria's team. Sticking with leader enablement for a minute, Rima Travasso is coming back to her roots in direct customer support on the leader enablement team, and we're pretty excited about that. And Lisa Graves has accepted the product owner role in the R Offer value stream, and there still has got to be a better name for that, so that we're sort of clear around what that means. Relative to total rewards, which is the full sort of compensation pension benefits scope. The other appointment that I don't see here, but I'll just mention it anyway, is Darlene Jacopo, who has moved into the lead strategy role in the office of the CPO. And sticking with announcements, we are seeing Lindsay Clark move over to B&Ag in the professional practice and culture team. So that's a little bit sad for us, but she's not going that far away, and Business and Ag is lucky to have her. So close in terms of filling those roles. I will say we are still quite, there will be a transition period as we get the PX Hub up and running. So we've got lots of people appointed to these new roles. We will not be sort of having a sort of interruption or disconnect around our direct support to customers. So we need to figure out the sort of business partner support, and we will also need to have a bit of an interim approach as we get those business consultant roles fully filled and have people in place to pick up that strategic work. So people will be helping us bridge a little bit until we get fully into that structure. We will be starting an external search for those two vacant business consultant roles. So that could take us a little bit of time by the time we sort of source and select and get external people on board. So hoping to have that all sorted out over the next month and a bit. And that's, I think, it for the highlights. And as always, you'll see lots of the detail and can go back and have a look at it on the P&C Hub. So check that out as well. And I think, Liz, that is back to you to connect on the organizational announcements.
Awesome. Thank you. So I'll just do some highlights, one around the strategic structure that Curtis sent out, and I'll just go a little bit deeper on some of the areas that have seen some changes, and then I'll go into just some high-level messaging that you'll start to hear more about from Curtis just on a few focus areas over the next little bit. So in terms of the strategic leadership team, so that will be the new team that will replace the old SMC. And the big change here is Curtis has declared that he will not be replacing his role around Chief Customer Officer. And so those 4 EVPs will report directly to Curtis and will form part of the strategic leadership team. And, there was, I think, questions in the chat from the team members around, not replacing Curtis. What does that mean? And what Curtis would share is that those 4 AOEs work so holistically together and are into a really good cadence around, the silos have been broken down, and they will continue to work very closely together in the new structure. So that piece of it does not go away. Just a couple of the other changes that we saw within the reputation and brand team. We've got Carol Schmeigel, who's been appointed in as the SVP of brand. You would have seen that the listening post is moving into Carol's team, and that is really kind of this signal around customer obsession as a system. So bringing kind of all customer insights into one team. So the marketing team, Channel 21, will continue to be part of that team. And then what was moved out of that team was the communications team that moved over to Camille in her new capacity as the VP of Communications and Strategic Coordination. So communications is moving over to Camille. And that is really all of the internal and external communications will be out of that team. As well as just our partnership with the province will fall under Camille's world. We will have the economics group will be in there, as well as Juliet and team who had the strategic coordination office. So that is kind of Camille's new portfolio, and she will work very closely with Curtis kind of on the communication side. A couple of the other changes we would have seen, obviously the corporate social responsibility team came into P&C. Under business and agriculture, under Teresa's portfolio, the horizontals moved in there. So Raj and that team moved in under Teresa. Under RFS, so under John Tarnowski's portfolio, David Bradshaw and the care team moved in. And then under Tim Gillespie is the CDO, the development office, corporate development office team moved in under Tim Gillespie. So we really believe that kind of this new team, the strategic leadership team, really represents kind of the diversity of thought from kind of expertise within subject matter expertise, diversity in a number of ways. So really this team is intended to be kind of the strategic team for ATB. So I'm going to pause there and just see, Tracy, if there's any questions or anything that, any comments anybody has before we move on.
No questions yet, Liz. Yeah, nothing at all. Lots of at the beginning excitement for the Stampede. Lots of welcome and excitement around our new team members that have joined us. Lots of congratulations to our new appointees. But no comments yet on the moves, on Curtis's moves and the piece that you just went over.
Great. And I just before maybe I move off of this one, I think the slide was out there. What I did is I just highlighted where some of the changes are, but just very quickly, the new strategic leadership team, it's myself, it's Bob McGee, Lisa McDonald, Carol Schmeigel, Camille, Teresa Clouston, Chris Turchansky, John Tarnowski, Tim Gillespie, and John Horstman from Alticorp. So just as a quick recap on that. Okay, and then if we just move, and we can just stay on this one. We don't need to do the slides. Yeah, that's great. So some things that I would have heard, we had a kind of our kickoff meeting early in the morning on the day that Curtis took on his new role. And then he had a call that just with the executive team, and then he had a call with the broader team member base. And some of the messages that I picked up from a variety of those sessions that we had that day were really around reinforcing this message on ATB's philosophy of putting people first. And if you have team members who are engaged, loving the work that they do, tied to the organization's purpose, that the customer experience will follow and will be elevated. And when you deliver a customer obsessed experience, that performance is an outcome of that. So he has always been a very big believer in that and was just reinforcing that message around people, customer, performance. Some of the areas that he talked about on kind of under this banner of focus is around performance. So we're looking at reimagining some of our key performance indicators, our KPIs. And in particular, the two that are top of mind for us, one is around our customer advocacy index, which has served us really, really well and has measured customers' willingness to continue to buy and willingness to recommend. And we believe that we are almost outgrowing that measure, and we really want to look at a measure that measures customer obsession versus what would be more of a net promoter type of score. So Omar, who's currently leading the listening post in partnership with Carol Schmeigel, Deb has been involved, Juliet has been involved. We're looking at what might a new metric for customer obsession look like. So we would like to have a bit of a baseline in the fall that would we would start to be able to test, to be able to put into place for the start of next fiscal, that we will then start to measure in parallel to our old customer advocacy, with an idea of flipping that switch when we have a lot of comfort in that baseline measure. And a similar story for customer engagement. So we have used Aon Hewitt with Say, Stay, Strive. We believe that we may have outgrown the Aon Hewitt, and we're really looking at how we measure engagement and tie engagement to the organization's purpose. So looking for a new measure, and Naomi and Javi and that team are hard at work looking at getting something out when we do our pulse survey in October that will give us a baseline on a new engagement score. Under this kind of performance banner, we're also looking at compensation. So looking at, for short-term incentive, many of us, specifically in the corporate space, have corporate net income, engagement, customer advocacy. Engagement would be if you're a leader. And we are all, like all 2,000 of us, are on that short-term incentive plan. We would like to start to have short-term incentive tied to individual performance. We do that a bit more in the AOEs, but not always. And in corporate office, it has been tricky. So we're looking at how do we really kind of pay for performance. And then we're also looking on the long-term planning side for whether we can put in an LTI for a much broader team member base. And it would be tied to something that is very strategic to the organization and will likely be customer obsession. But we have more work to do there on that metric and seeing how we could put this long-term incentive plan in place. But Judy has a very full plate ahead of her, because these are a couple of the big ones for us as we go into next year. And then this Org design was another one under this performance banner, and it's really around looking at customer obsession as a system and ensuring that we are structured to support customer obsession. It's easy to kind of say this is what we're passionate about, this is what we think is a key differentiator for us. We need to make sure that we have set the organization up to succeed, to kind of be able to rally around customer obsession. And I think a perfect kind of first step there was when we looked at consolidating kind of everything around customer obsession into Carol's world. So we have a real tight lens on kind of the voice of the customer, what we're hearing internally, what we're hearing externally, how we're delivering our new solutions out to customers, how that's landing. So it's kind of this whole ecosystem around customer obsession. And then there was a piece around ensuring that any operating gaps, this is not the kind of the thrilling piece about this industry, but really ensuring that we've got a super strong foundation as it relates to things like risk, how we leverage data. So just a piece around really making sure that we've got our foundational pieces really, really solid. So those were kind of under this banner of performance. And then there was a second theme around kind of forces or zooming out. And some of you have heard this terminology, zoom in, zoom out. And zooming in is really when you're looking at kind of what your current 1 and 2 year plan is. And zooming out is when you look 5, 10, 15 years out and look at what is coming, what might be that will disrupt our industry and our space. So things that were under this banner are things like a cultural audit. So really looking at where are we today, where are we going in terms of our culture, and ensuring we've got a really good roadmap to get us there. Looking at things like consumer and business needs, so things like technology, regulation, data. So kind of really understanding what's coming, what will be disrupting our space, where do we want to be disrupting first, and making sure that we've got a good parallel track to be ready when these new forces are coming our way. Tracy, I said I was going to pause after each slide, and I forgot on the last one. So I'll just stop there before I go to the next one. Any questions, thoughts from the chat?
There is one question. And well, first, Debbie did place a comment in there that there's lots of comments in the room at ATB Place around the structure, making good sense, and people are excited to hear more as we move forward. So that's good news. Lisa had a question around Alticorp and its connection with ATB. And it's sounding like there might be another AOE in ATB, and will their employees become ATB team members? Maureen provided a little bit of context around the relationship, and integration hasn't been fully defined. So, so I don't know if there's anything more you want to add there.
No, I think that's a great, Maureen, a great recap on where that's at. Is we're just still trying to understand what that relationship is, what might Alticorp benefit from ATB, and where is it that it might make sense to just let them kind of run their own entity in the way that they've been running it. So as an example, we have started to support them from a P&C perspective, but we just have to determine how far do we take that support model.
Perfect. And then I have a question, so it's not in the chat. The changes to CAI and the engagement, are those in play for FY19, or are those something we're looking at for FY20?
We are going to have to see. So one thing we are very cautious about is putting in a new measure, especially when it is related to compensation, if we don't have a nice solid baseline an understanding of what targets should be. So we, at a minimum, will have those ready to go, either running in parallel to our existing. So we may have a transition year, or if we're feeling very comfortable that we've got a really solid baseline, we may go with it.
Okay, good. Thank you. And that's it for questions right now.
Okay, awesome. And then the third one was around the future. So this idea of abundance, and we've heard a lot from Curtis on this over the last few weeks. So this is around solving Albertans' greatest challenges, and we've heard kind of three themes there. One around poverty and homelessness, one around Indigenous, and on Indigenous, we've had a bit of a double click on clean drinking water. And then the third is mental wellness, mental health, mental illness, and really seeing when we talk about the greater good, it's around how can ATB have an impact on Albertans. So bringing some of the knowledge and understanding and good that we do to causes within our communities and to Albertans that can help solve some of these challenges or kind of root causes. So lots of work to be done there, and I think we'll hear a lot more around how we may build a bit of a system to support that internally. And then there was this piece around being the culture of envy. So this is around customers telling ATB stories. So we have become very good at telling our stories, and through us living the ATBs every day, we hear comments and we get letters from customers around how we've impacted them and their families and their communities. And this is really around elevating that it kind of moves from ATB telling our stories to customers being so amazed and feeling like we have really done something that has helped them kind of reach their personal goals, whether that's financial, family, other, that they're starting to tell our stories just naturally, and we're not doing that as much anymore. We're just delivering those amazing experiences. So those would be the highlights. So kind of just to recap those three, we had strong performance, we had abundance, which was around the future, and the third was, who was paying attention? Strong performance, zooming out, and abundance were kind of three themes that I heard that I think you'll start to hear more about. It's 10 o'clock. Tracy, one question?
No questions. Just a shout out from Monica to remind everyone to join the G+ Wellness community if you haven't already.
Awesome. Okay, thank you everyone, and have a great weekend. For those in Calgary, happy stampeding. For those of you in the rest of the province, hope you have some lovely weather this weekend. See you guys.